Just three ordinary guys trying to understand the crazy world around them. We don't have all the answers, but we've got all the questions. You're listening to Just Add Bourbon with Jimmy, JD, and Brad.
Welcome, everybody, to the Just Add Bourbon podcast. I'm Jimmy Don Kirk.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
And I'm JD Dameron.
And it is another beautiful Sunday evening here in the hills of eastern Kentucky. And JD, I say that, and JD looks at me and says, dude, it is not beautiful here. It is rainy and cold. And, you know, look, we've been in quarantine now for what? A month and a half, something like that, I guess. Is that how long we've been in? And it was pretty easy to deal with when on the weekends it was 70 degrees outside and you could be outside. But this rain and not being able to get out sucks.
Yeah, thank God we got some rain. We really needed it, didn't we? I think it's only rained 3 times this year, once for 45 days and 40 the other 2.
Right.
So I'm sick of the rain. I wish it would just go away. But, yeah, it definitely makes it tougher, standing in the house and just looking at the walls, man. It drives me crazy.
Well, me and the girls, we actually, talked about on here that we've been watching the Marvel movies in chronological order, and we got through Endgame last night. The last one we have is, I think, probably watch it tonight. It's the Spider-Man Far From Home movie. I think that's the last one. And then I'm trying to talk them into watching the Star Wars movies in order. I would probably do that just from episode 1, through. But I'm being denied on that so far. They can only take so much of my nerdum, and so I've been shut down there. But no, it does. It kind of sucks, man, because, all of us work every day, so we still get to go to work every day, so we're out of the house. But it does, you're so used to running around in the evenings and being busy that, it's nice to be able to sit in. But then on the weekends, I want to be able to get outside because I sit in an office all day long. You're underground all day. Yeah. You're in essentially an office all day. You're inside all day. So when the weekend comes, I want to be outside doing something, and this rain definitely puts a damper on that. So, but first topic this week, thought we would kind of start, with a little local flavor, and especially when it comes to the COVID-19 virus. And wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about something that happened here in our hometown. It came out that we had our second confirmed case of the coronavirus. And you would have thought that it was our 2000th. And it's the difference between the small town reactions to things versus what it is when it's on a much bigger scale. Because people around here lose their mind. The pitchforks come out quick. There's been Facebook posts. There was an article in the newspaper this week about it. The editor of the newspaper apparently quit over the story. It was like, you would have thought, New York literally had, I don't know, this is, probably not factual, but, they had 1,000 people dying a day. We get our second confirmed COVID case, and everybody loses their mind.
So what was the deal in the paper that the big uproar was about?
Well, the story, as I understand it, is the person was diagnosed, and they didn't quarantine. They were actually out and about. And the health department, they actually had an order signed by a judge to quarantine this person. And I think she had some family maybe in the county next to us and then here. And apparently she wasn't doing what she was told. Well, then I guess she starts getting crushed on social media. And I don't know how it is outside of, our little bubble here. But Facebook is everything here. That's where everything goes down, is on Facebook. And so people start crushing her on Facebook, I don't know. I don't know exactly. That's all I know. And the person who was the editor at the paper apparently wanted to discuss that. Wanted to say she wasn't staying home. And, he said some things. It's a he said, she said now between, the people who own the paper and the former editor. But he's no longer there. And so, of course, he went to Facebook and posted about it. And all that.
He was there for a long time, wasn't he?
Long time. As long as I can remember, he's been there.
So, the way I understand it, this young girl got tested, and the standard operating procedure is once you get tested, you quarantine right now, as soon as your testing's done. But she did not do that. That's when she was out and about, I think. And it took her 8 days to get her test results back. So, how many people can you affect in 8 days?
Sure.
But she was, like you said, she went to some relative's house in the county next over from us. But I guess she got permission to do that through the sheriff's office or however they do that. But then they decided they was going to reverse that order, and the health department went and got a warrant to have her come back to Martin County in quarantine. And I guess they decided that it was okay for her to quarantine where she was at. And there's like people everywhere that say they seen her out. But in her defense, apparently the sheriff's office went out looking for videotape at these stores that where people say they seen her at, and she's not up on the camera anywhere after she finally got her test results back. So the problem is that area where she tested before she got the test results back.
Right. And that's what, it kind of brings us back to something we talked about probably when this all first started. I think we talked about, should the public be notified? If there's something, if this person was out, who were they around? And I think we talked about the HIPAA rules and or the HIPAA laws and things of that nature. But you can see why it would be hard in this particular case to let anybody know that you tested positive, especially in a small town, because, like Facebook was a roar.
Oh, yeah.
And people just really kind of, I did read a few things, and, people were being pretty nasty.
Yeah, I think from the local newspaper standpoint to the former editor, they was afraid of a libel issue. Of the editor printing something in the paper and making themselves open for a lawsuit.
Right, and that makes sense to me.
Which makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
So they did a fluff story this week. They've even got a lot of kickback from that. And, the former editor and his daughter went on Facebook and started a new page, My Father's Final Story or something like that. And, they tried to quiet him. They put the X over his mouth. But, it's just been a big mess from the get-go up here, and that's why I still feel the same way. Like, I feel like we're almost better off just coming out with the information, let everybody know, and this is how we're going to handle it. But I don't know the rules right now. If I went and got it tested, I wouldn't have known I had a quarantine right now as soon as I tested. I wouldn't have known that. Would you have known that? It makes sense. But I just never thought about it.
I feel like I knew that. Like,
but I feel like a doctor should definitely tell you.
You're supposed to quarantine for 14 days after you get tested. If you think that you might have it, and a doctor, because, I guess the testing, you got to meet certain protocol before they'll even test you. If you're that far and a doctor agrees to test you, then there's a pretty decent chance you got it. Sure. And you probably need to quarantine. And we all know, the issues with it. So, but let's keep
in mind, this is a 19-year-old girl.
Right.
This is not a 40-year-old. It's not. This is a young girl. She's probably not making great decisions anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
No. And maybe she went to these places and maybe she didn't. But now, not that. I don't want to go as far as to say stuff that's not true gets put on Facebook. However, I could see a situation where people know who she is and whatever, and then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, well I saw her at Piggly Wiggly yesterday."
Oh yeah,
that's exactly what happened.
I think that's what happened is, I saw her there. I saw her here, and then but there's no proof necessarily that she was at any of these places. I don't know, but again, it just makes that question interesting. Should people know? Because like I said, now, not that anybody in our little small county would overreact about anything.
Right.
Right? It's almost laughable. Like, you could see that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And, to protect somebody's identity, to maybe keep them from, and especially a young person like that, who will probably take it to heart a little more, it would be rougher on them than it would on me.
Yeah, because I could care less.
Because I don't care.
Right.
You can say what you want about me, and I just don't care. I know who I am. You know what I mean? But a child like that,
she's still trying to figure out who she is.
Stuff out.
Yeah.
And so that makes an interesting, question of whether or not it should be put out. Because I'm sure if you come, they ask you who have you been in contact with, things like that. And they probably notify those people that, hey, you could have been exposed to this. Maybe you need to go get tested. But it's just a good example of small town living, brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's small town living.
It's like the best thing about living in a small town is everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. And the worst thing about living in a small town is everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, she is okay.
Yeah.
Going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think she's done with her quarantine.
Yeah, I think she's actually done with her quarantine and everything's all right. So, which is good.
Yeah.
But no, I found that interesting. That was all the buzz, in our little town here this week. So, the other thing that kind of came out that really affects us locally and affects one of us, which is JD, is, Brashear came out and said no more school for the rest of the year. And what that does is it cancels prom, cancels graduation for our seniors. And, we've talked about it on here a bunch of times, how butthurt I've been over this whole thing because our high school basketball team, our boys basketball team, made it to the state tournament for the first time in 37 years. And now they don't go get to play there. And that sucks for them, especially for those seniors. But, looking back, myself, really trying to look at this and looking back, those are good memories for me. Is, my senior prom, my high school graduation, the party after my high school graduation. Those things, those are good memories for me. And I feel like every kid should get that. And there's a whole group of kids here that aren't going to get to experience that. And JD, your son Chase is a senior this year, right? So yeah. I guess I really want to know, like, what your thoughts are. Has Chase said anything? Like, he's
not said a lot. If you know Chase, he's a pretty quiet kid, but I can tell it bothers him. When they first was put out of school, we were talking out on the porch, they were just hanging out. He was like, "Dad, do you think I'm going to go back to school?" And for Chase to say something like that, that's something that's weight on his mind. And I was like, I just don't know. He goes, "Well, that sucks." We had all these plans for prom, had these, graduation, don't have these memories now. And that sucks for these kids, man. It's terrible. I'm hopeful that somehow, some way, someday, we can do something to give them some kind of graduation, some kind of get together. I don't know. I don't want to say party because obviously they can't party. But,
right.
But, we do something for them so they can have some memories that the community. And also, right now, there's some people, I don't know if you guys have seen this on your Facebook, where you can, donate some money. They're going to, buy packets for every senior, like a T-shirt and I don't know what else, but, give them a little something, a little parting gift anyway as they leave high school.
And Brad, I don't know why this bothers me so much because I don't have a kid that's ready to graduate. It bothers me for Chase. Chase is sat in here with us. I really like Chase.
Yeah.
And good kid.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's okay. JD. But I've been racking my brain on some way to come up with a drive-through graduation, where it could be done, where people could come up, and I'd even come up with this idea that our airport here, that runway is really wide, it's really long, where you could park people on each side of the runway and then let the kids drive up. And, being from Eastern Kentucky, it would be really interesting because you tell them you can ride through on anything you want, whether that be your car, a side-by-side, a four-wheeler. Somebody's going to ride a horse. You know what I'm saying? And
let's be Alex Dowles.
Yeah. But do something, I've been racking my brain, trying to think of something that's reasonable, that you could do for them and make it fun and make it memorable. And, Brad, I'm sure you're just like JD and I I'm sure you remember your senior prom, your graduation. I think Brad and I were messing around yesterday. We're getting ready to clean this building out, and he pulled out a picture of his high school graduation, and he was with Marquise Estel that Brad went to school with and was friends with, but he played for Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, check this out," and it was his graduation picture. And so I'm sure that's, that's a memory that you'll always have, and it's a shame that a lot of these kids aren't going to get to have it.
Yeah, I had in the back of my mind a little bit of hope that they'd go back in school enough time just so you could have even a shortened baseball season. Because this is the first year that I've helped up there. And obviously with the other players, we'll have a season next year and stuff will go back to normal. But, Chase and Drake and Braden and some of these guys that are seniors,
is it?
I was enjoying working with them and looking forward to seeing what these guys can do their senior year. And then it's done. They don't, not going to get to play.
Yeah, and, and if you had any hopes of being a prospect or showing out, maybe get your college paid for, that's gone. And that sucks, man, because, your senior year, I think back on it now. Would I go back to high school? I always said, yeah, I'd go back. I don't know that I would now. I enjoyed high school, but I really enjoyed college. I wouldn't go back there right now. But,
that's because you was a knucklehead.
I was a knucklehead, for sure. There's no question. But for those kids, I don't know what you can do, and I think it's good. I think we're sponsoring a kid. I was told, Amy said we were going to sponsor somebody, so give some money for that, which I will gladly hand over, for these kids because they are missing out on a lot. The prom, you had a lot of girls that had already bought dresses.
Yeah.
You're not getting your money back for that. It just sucks, man. I mean, that's all you can really say is it just sucks for those guys. And if any of them are listening, we hate it for you, and we wish that, there was something that could be done. But I think you can get creative and come up with some kind of way to do a graduation at least. That would be memorable. And I, for one, would attend a graduation where anybody could ride through on anything they wanted just to see what happened being in Eastern Kentucky. That would be it would be off the chain. It would.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be down with that. I'd be down to attend it or help organize it, whatever, man. I'm ready to put the bootstraps on and let's go. I'm down with it.
Yeah. So a couple other things that happened in the state this week that we'll talk about, or things that we've never talked about on here for probably good reason. And then the other is something that we have talked about because it was a big part of our gubernatorial election this past year. So I've said on here many times, I vote conservative the majority of the time, but I've been very pleased with how Governor Beshear has handled the COVID-19 issue here in the state of Kentucky. I've been really, really happy with how he's done, his communication. He's making hard decisions, and I feel like he's doing a good job, with the decisions he's making. While I might, I question, can we go back? The numbers don't make sense to me, but overall, he's done a good job. And I've said on here before, too, he is in favor of sports gambling. I'm in favor of that. He's also in favor of legalizing marijuana for medical use. I'm in favor of that. But he did a couple of things this week, or that came out this week, that I don't necessarily agree with. And it may be something, JD, that you and I can kind of have a discussion on. Maybe you can teach me a little something. Maybe I can teach you something. Sure. I don't know. The first one was he vetoed an abortion bill. And my understanding of this abortion bill is it's really for late-term abortion. It's for people who have tried to have an abortion before. It didn't take for whatever reason. The child is born and they're probably sick, but you would make every effort to keep that child alive and not just let it die.
Right.
And make it comfortable. And the controversial part of that is if these attorney general would be able to enforce, if a doctor did not do that, they could lose their license and there's some other things. Now, Beshear said that he vetoed it because this had, right now in the middle of this COVID-19 thing, he didn't want to do anything that was controversial and that could divide us. Fair enough. That makes sense. He also said that this has been deemed unconstitutional in some other states. Fair enough. But now I have a really strong stance on abortion, okay? Now I'm very liberal in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to social issues. I also believe in a woman's right to choose, okay? I think a woman has the right to choose what she does with her body. But when it comes to abortion, specifically late-term abortion, I am not in favor of that in any way. In any way. That's a child. If it's born, it's a child. It may be sick, but it's still a child. It's a human being. It's a life. And Beshear even said it's on the books that it's considered murder anyway.
Yeah, that's where I want to go. But my argument is that we've already got laws protecting those kids. So I'm not sure what this bill, why it's any different. Like, Andy says, you know what? If a child is born, they're always supposed to be protected and try to keep alive and all these things. So to me, this was just a issue that people were just trying to play politics and cause a division in a time we don't need it. That's what I feel like this bill was. Why would this bill be on your desk in the middle of a pandemic?
Right, and that makes sense. I mean, that's a valid point. And to me, though, when I see that, and this is just because I am so against late-term abortion. Like, I'm pretty open-minded about most things. That particular issue, I am not open-minded about it. No,
and you're not going to get any kickback from me from late-term abortions. I got a real problem after 12 weeks with somebody going to get an abortion. You've had time to make your decision. It needs to be made, and we need to move on. But now, as far as early term abortion, and I'm a strong advocate of a woman's choice to do what she feels is right. I know people on the right think it's a moral issue, and I couldn't agree more. I think it is a moral issue. I just look at it from a different, the same story, different perspective.
Sure, and that's totally fair. So, no, that was one of those things where I kind of thought, let me ask you this question, because this is really, I guess, where you're right, and, this is already on the books, but why not hammer it down to where you can make a doctor liable? Maybe they have the belief that, they believe in late-term abortions, right? And we all agree that's wrong, but why not the position of making a doctor liable for not caring for that child if that situation arose?
Well, I think that's what his point was, that being deemed unconstitutional in other states. It's a waste of paper and time and money when you get in a lawsuit when this brings up to the state that we don't need to have.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. But I thought it was something that I didn't agree with necessarily. Like, I thought, why veto that? Let's hammer that down.
Right.
But it could be a waste of time from the sense of, a paper standpoint. But I'm just, I am just so anti-abortion, especially late term. When it comes to that, I'm like you. You've had the amount of time to choose. There is a morning after pill now.
Sure.
I say this, and this will sound harsh, but it really, a lot of times say, well, it's a woman's right to choose. Yes, it is. It's a woman's right to choose whether to have sex, to use contraception, to take a morning after pill, all that. Once you get to a certain point, there is a life there. And I believe in the sanctity of life and those things.
I do too. But now, I don't want to be confused. I think the woman has a right to choose up to that certain point. Because, if you look at the numbers, man, a lot of these women who have, especially young women who get pregnant young, make a mistake, they get burdened down with a child, and the odds really start stacking against them. And we all know success stories of people who had children in high school or even middle school who turned out to have great lives and successful careers. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of women don't have the support system that those people have. And so that's why I'm such an advocate for pro-choice.
Fair enough. And, and I think it's a discussion, you almost want to kind of stay away from it. That's one of those discussions you want to have amongst small groups. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
you don't necessarily want to come out and really go into it, but I thought it was an important topic this week, and especially right in the middle of the COVID-19 thing.
It's a big it's very emotional. It's emotional quick.
And I was interested to know your take on it, actually, is why I wanted to talk about it, because I wanted to know what your thought, because we've never really talked about abortion before, so I'm just interested to know what you thought. All right, so moving on. The other thing that came out, and we talked about this a lot, when the governor's race was going on between Matt Bevin and Andy Beshear. And the reason, Matt Bevin got beat because of Matt Bevin. He couldn't keep his mouth shut. He said a lot of things against the teachers in Kentucky. Now the budget numbers are coming out. And I read a bunch of different articles on it. Well, we're not going to have a shortfall, but the numbers show that we're going to have a $1.2 billion shortfall in the teacher's pension. Now, like Bevin or not, Bevin fully funded that pension. He was taking the steps. They were hard steps, and he was trying to move that forward to fund that pension. Like I said, hate him or not, he was doing that. Now, we're going to have a $1.2 billion shortfall. And I don't know if this is a game that the Republican House is playing with Beshear to make Beshear look bad, specifically on this issue. But there's still a $1.2 billion shortfall that can't have. I mean, at some point now, his dad, Beshear's dad, raided the pension fund. He was funding like $9 out of $100 for the pension fund.
And doing other things with it.
And doing other stuff with it. And so that had always worried me about Beshear.
Right. And I think it's a legit point. But now there's two ways a government, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there's two ways a government makes money. They either raise taxes or they cut funding in other places, right? And actually, the third option is you grow your economy and you create more taxes and jobs, right?
And the truth is, Kentucky is about 40% subsidized by the federal government. We get about 40% of our budget money from the federal government.
So we're a pretty poor state to begin with. And so Beshear wanting to bring in the gambling stuff, to me, like, I don't understand. I can't see the bad pushback from that from the other side, knowing that we're in such dire financial situation. What's wrong with bringing in an industry as big as that creates jobs, brings in more revenue, and helps us fund, these things? And it may not go directly to the teacher's pension, but it may fund another project that now the teacher's pension doesn't have to carry the burden of.
Right. And I mean, that makes sense. Brad, as far as the the pension is concerned, I mean, I'm sure because, Brad, you've got a family of teachers, right? And I don't know if you've talked to any of your family about this, as far as because your sister's a principal, incredibly smart lady. Your mom's a teacher, smart lady. Having their pension funded is a big deal, right? I mean, for my wife's a teacher. Part of our retirement plan is the fact that she actually gets to draw her retirement.
Sure.
And if they don't fund the pension plan, then that's in jeopardy for all teachers when they're looking to retire.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things, and I don't mean this to come off like I don't care, because I do, because I got a family of teachers and I'm surrounded by teachers. But I think just like with the election, that kind of came down to the teachers and their beef with the governor. And I think this is kind of going to be the same deal. It's not a hill I don't have a teacher's pension. I got a 401k and whatever outside all that. But I think that's something that if the teachers don't like it, then they're going to have the same voice that they had 6 months ago.
I agree with that.
One of the things that is interesting that could be happening that affects this on a national level is, have you guys seen what Mitch McConnell said about the states?
Yes.
Filing for bankruptcy. So what does that do to all these teachers now? Now they don't have retirement.
They don't have retirement.
All these state employees lose all their. You think Kentucky, and Tennessee, and West Virginia aren't going to have to file bankruptcy if that comes down to that?
And that's an interesting point that you brought up because I read that and I think that's mechanical.
You might have just made up a new word.
I did, mechanical.
My metrics.
Yeah. McConnell is known as a master tactician when it comes to politics. I mean, on the national level. Now, we talked about the book Mitch Please on here quite a bit. I'm going to bring it to y'all and let you read it. It's very interesting about the things he hasn't done.
Right.
Okay? Because he plays really up here on the national level and he doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to issues that affect our state. Now, this book was written from a liberal slant, okay? But it's an interesting read. And he may actually, because I think that was a bad move on his part because it would destroy Kentucky teachers. It would destroy a lot of things for him to actually come out and say that. Now, there may be some truth behind what he said, about filing bankruptcy and those things. But I would think if it was going to hurt your state as bad as it could, that you might try to find another plan. I don't know.
And I want to make this clear too. When we say it's going to hurt your state as bad as it could, we're not talking about the state. We're talking about the people that have worked and retired and dedicated their lives to this state, working in this state. That's what we're talking about it hurting. When you put a face to it, it's a lot different. You put Amy's face to not having no pension, it's a little different, And I think we need to recognize that,
So do you all think with all this going on, and, we went through this with election, and now, we're having this discussion now, but do you think maybe moving forward that the retirements need to be something other than a pension? Because I think that the pensions create a lot of problems as well. And I'm not just talking about for the funding of the money. I'm talking about for production and for those types of things.
Absolutely.
Like an example, if, when you get a teacher that gets in after a couple years and they're tenured and they're, or like take the FBI or whatever, any of these jobs where they get a pension, there's a lot of things that could probably have been corrected or been addressed, but people don't want to pop their head up and they don't want to create a problem because they think, okay, well, I got 24 years in. If I create a problem now and get fired, all I got to do is get X amount of years left to get my check. And that is a very effective way to keep people in check. You see where I'm going?
Oh, no, absolutely. And that was really the crux of Bevan's plan to try to fix the pension system. Was you take what you have, the teachers that are already in the system, that are tenured and all that, that system remains. But any new teachers moving forward, you fund a 401k or a 403b or whatever it may be, you fund those, and you, like everybody else does in their jobs, you have a retirement plan. To be perfectly honest with you, I would rather take my money that I pay into Social Security and put it into a 401k. I'd rather have my own money. Instead, if Social Security, that is supposed to be to fund the retirement of the people in this country, I'd just assume not give it to the government and let them draw interest on my money. I'd rather have it myself. Now, maybe that's fundamentally different than what you all think, but that is what I think. I would rather have it myself.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, if you could take in, which we're all roughly the same. I mean, Jimmy Don's about 15, 20 years older than me and JD, but me and JD are the same age.
Easy now.
So, being in the workforce for 20 to 25 years, if you could go back and see every dime that you've paid into Social Security, I would like my odds to have had that money and been able to put that into a 401k or an IRA over the last 20 years. And I would say we'd probably be sitting in a little better place than we will be at retirement age. Now, Jimmy Don, you're the financial guru in the room, but
100%.
I mean, that's probably true for most people. But the problem is, what do you do with the people who blow that money and lose that money?
Well, that's the thing. You can't. That's the thing. If you set a system like that up, right, then you can't withdraw from it. That's strictly for your retirement. Now, most 401ks are set up where you can make a hardship withdrawal, you can cash in, get taxed out, but you would make it to where, no, this is your retirement. You're paying into it strictly, dude.
I don't have a problem with that, really.
I max out, and this is a good problem to have, okay? And I'm not, like trying to complain about this, but I literally max out my Social Security payment every year in October. I don't pay Social Security from October through December every year because I max it out, because I get taxed really hard because of the way that my business is structured. That's just nothing I can do about that. It just is what it is, and you try to take care of that through tax loopholes and different things like that. But if I could take the money that I put into Social Security every year on top of, and you could also save, you could have the Garden Variety 401k where you can put some of your own money into it and your employer can match it. Plus, employers have to match Social Security. Like, I have to match my Social Security. Like, I pay, they take it out of my paycheck, and then where I'm a small business owner, I also have to match it. Okay? I have to match it on the other side. So, you would be saving businesses a whole lot of money, not to mention the administrative cost that it takes to run the pension system in our state. You become leaner, you become meaner, you become more efficient. And one thing that I will tell you, and that's why I'm for small government, is because big government is not efficient. It's just not efficient. And that's where my conservative views come in. That's what I've always said, is I am very liberal socially, okay? I've always have been. I want for people to help people, okay? But physically, I want small government. And if you, instead of, the other thing that you do is you create jobs in the private sector, good jobs. Not necessarily that you want brokers or Wall Street, but you're going to create jobs for people to manage these that your tax dollars not having to pay for. And you're going to come out better. Your state's going to come out better, and you personally as an individual will come out better. Now, I've said a lot. JD, do you agree with anything I've just said? Or, like, what's your take on that side?
Well, my take is we tried that before. We tried a small government and no government, and we had kids underground at coal mining. And we had an industrial revolution where people were throwing feces out into the street because there was no infrastructure, no government, no regulation. So we tried that before, and it didn't work.
Now, tell me, like, when did we try? Like, what are you referring to?
Well, the Industrial Revolution, 1910. We to go to these big cities, and people were throwing their feces out in the street. I mean, it's a recorded history. We had these factories where people didn't have a safe work environment. They were slaughtering cattle and all these things, and the meat wasn't safe because the sanitation in the factories weren't good because we didn't have no regulation. We had coal miners. The way they used to do coal mining is you would gather up the coal with pick and a shovel or whatever, and send it out in the basket, and you'd put your name on it, right, on that basket. So I would take my whole family underground, and we would all pick up coal and put it in those baskets and put my tag on it. Because, of course, you made more money. And so, without that regulation, what happened is we start bringing our kids in, trying to make that extra dime, trying to make that extra, and get out of underneath the company stores. And that's in the company stores from the coal mines are notorious for taking advantage of their workers. And so you end up working for free or starving to death because everything you make, you owe back to the store. So we've tried that before. We've tried no government or small regulations.
I think the ironic thing about the Social Security aspect is that we pay that in kind of as the government saying, well, you have to do this because people aren't responsible enough to save for themselves. But the three of us, there's a good chance that we won't even see ours because the same government wasn't responsible enough to take our money that we were supposed to be responsible with and actually do with it what was supposed to be done with it.
What's funny, though, is about the whole thing is we talk about the right being physically conservative, but, Ronald Reagan was the first person to go into our Social Security and start taking that money to fund other programs. And everybody hails him as, the great white conservative. And it's ironic to me.
Myself, I'm not. I mean, I liked Reagan as a president because I liked some of his economic policies, but I don't agree with the rating of Social Security.
No.
But everybody since then, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, has done it.
Yeah.
And so, as far as that goes, that's the reason, though. Can we trust? And we talk about this on here all the time. Can we trust our government to act in? JD, as far as like what I look at, if all the money you've worked probably since you were 16, 17 years old, right? Since you could. I've worked since I was 16. I was 15 when I started working.
Actually, I was 17, yeah. 17.
Yeah, I've worked. If every dime that I paid into Social Security was put into my own personal 401k, let's just use that as an example.
Sure.
That would be millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about that on a smaller scale. For the people that were working minimum wage jobs, paying into Social Security, it's not going to be millions of dollars, but it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're going to be better off. And again, that's my opinion, and there's probably more to that than it's probably harder or more complicated than what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I think overall, and your government doesn't have access to it. We pay in taxes all year, and a lot of that's sitting there drawing interest. Why couldn't it draw interest for us if it's for our retirement?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, man. I don't have a problem with that at all. The problem is, I think that now the government's dependent on that Social Security to pay for other programs.
Right. And they don't even got enough. They could take every dime of Social Security, and we deficit spend like I've never seen. So, so that's an interesting conversation. I wouldn't care to get into that a little deeper sometime, be a little more prepared, and maybe discuss that, because I think that's an interesting conversation about retirement and how it should be done, and especially when it comes to the teachers. You realize with the teachers' pension fund, most people don't realize this. Amy cannot draw a dime of my Social Security. And I've paid in hundreds of thousands of dollars into Social Security. Hundreds of thousands. Because she could draw it, but she couldn't draw her state pension. So at some point, if I die, she's going to have to make a decision. Should I draw from the pension that I worked for my whole life? Or should I take Jimmy Don's Social Security? And that's not fair. She should be able to get both.
I agree.
And the miners' pensions. It's another thing I could kind of pick on McConnell for. While I like a lot of the stuff that he does nationally, because I like how he messes with the Democrats sometimes, I think it's funny. And again, not that I necessarily agree with it. I just think it's funny because I think they do it to each other. And, the people who like Pelosi probably like how she messes with the Republicans. But the miners' pensions, when you have a pension system like that, how do you think those miners would have been better off to take all that money that was put into that pension and had it for themselves?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Because, there's all kinds of cases of miners' pensions not being paid out.
Well, because now you're at the mercy of the government, right?
Right.
That's just the way it is.
So I think you would have a much, much better... Our citizens would be richer.
And that, JD, is the whole point that I'm making, is having look, with anything that you put your money in, whether if you've got a 401k and you've got it in the stock market, whatever you're doing with it, it's obviously it's a risk, right? You know, it's going to go up and down and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I want to take my chances of me making those decisions versus somebody else making those decisions, or being dependent on is the wrong governor going to get elected, whether it be Republican or Democrat or whoever, and is that going to affect my retirement?
Yeah, and I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, I agree with that 100%. I just feel like we would be better off, and I feel like if the teachers, while Bevan said some really insensitive things, okay, I mean, it's just stupid. Just stupid.
Yeah. He's just a butthole. Just
yeah,
he is.
Was. I mean, it was just stupid.
Yeah.
But what he was proposing, in my opinion, would have been the right move forward for the teachers.
Well, as if you look, even on the national level in these campaigns and these elections, you will see that policies never win elections. They just don't. Policies don't win elections. Personalities win elections.
It's a popularity contest,
It's a popularity contest, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, you get, somebody like Donald Trump is a great example, of a guy who really knows how to play to the camera, and, people like that.
He's a salesman, man.
He's a salesman, yeah. Absolutely. He's been doing it for a long time.
Obama was a salesman.
Obama
was
well
probably one of the
spoken,
best spoken people I've ever heard.
Sure.
I mean, he's one of the best speakers I've ever heard.
Yeah, he is.
So, anyway, go ahead, Brad.
Something that's insane. I don't know if you all have seen any of these studies where they'll take pictures of people running for elections and nobody knows who they are. And by these pictures, it will determine who actually wins because of facial features, what they're wearing. And people go in and they don't know anything about them, who they are, what state they are. They'll just have two people and they'll say, pick the winners. And these people go through and pick the winners. And it's insanely accurate of how many of them are actually the people that won their elections.
And one of the things that we were talking about, Mitch, please, if you read that book, I recommend everybody read it. It's interesting. It talks about Jones's, I guess, decision-making process, to whether or not to run against Mitch. And it talks about he went to like this Democratic boot camp, and he said within 30 minutes he was ready to leave because all it was about was who can raise the most money. Not what your issues are.
Are you talking about Mitch McConnell? Because he raises more money than anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm screaming, man. That's what these politicians are. It's like Brad said. It's how you look. It's a popularity contest. It has nothing to do with issues. And even and this is Republican and Democrat.
Right.
It's not what your policies are. It's not what you think. It is how much money can you raise.
Right.
Unless you're Mike Bloomberg.
Right.
Yeah, this strategy was just terrible from the get-go. But anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
This is a completely random, out of nowhere. I don't know if we were done with that conversation.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
But
we were. I was ready to move on.
Well, I just forgot to bring this up when we got together earlier. But is Kim Jong-un dead? Does anybody know what's going on with
actually,
that?
that's great. I'm glad you brought that up because there was some Japanese paper said he's in a vegetative state.
TMZ said he's dead.
That's interesting.
TMZ said he's dead.
So now if he pops up somewhere at some event, is that going to be like the biggest troll move ever?
Oh, yeah, dude, it's Tupac. I mean, he's out there still alive. He'll be like Tupac and Biggie. People see them all the time.
But I'm wondering how long is it going to take for us to find out? Like, because, I mean, how are you going to find out? They don't let anything out there, And how many lookalikes do you think that guy has?
Right. Do you even know, like, do we know, was he sick? Did he have
heart
a stroke
operation or something, I think.
Yeah, I think he might have had some heart issues or something, but apparently he had some kind of operation. And then I've heard both stories that
he must not have been in line with what the CIA was wanting to do. He was baiting up
here
to Trump. He was baiting up to Trump too close.
Shadows, baby.
And they've killed him. That's what it is. Yeah. But no, that is. I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I saw earlier today, and I thought we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
And because that's so strange. And you're right, JD. How will we ever know?
Well, I mean, we'll figure it out, but I imagine it's going to take a while if they want to keep it hush hush.
Yeah.
Like he's just hoping his sister's going to take over because he thinks she's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, you ain't never lied.
Guilty as charged, right, JD? Guilty as charged. He said he's over there.
I heard she's actually supposed to be crazier than he is. Apparently, she's more radical than Kim Jong-un was.
That's
so we'll see, man. I don't know where else
I don't know.
Out.
You're talking about Little Rocket Man going down. That's an interesting development. So let's talk about, the COVID-19. Let's hit, before we get into our fun stuff for the show, let's hit a national topic, and it was all over the place. I even saw JD make a couple of posts about it, and that's when, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I never actually heard what he said. I only saw the headlines. But apparently Trump said something about like drinking Lysol, or I think what he was probably saying was maybe something like that. I'm totally assuming, okay, because I did not read it. But my guess is he's probably said like a hypothetical, what if, we could come up with something that was like Lysol that would kill the disinfectant or whatever. I don't even know.
I've got the transcript.
Go ahead and read it there if you don't care. Just so, for factual purposes, because I don't know.
He said, "Thank you very much. So I asked still a question that probably some of you are thinking, if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way, and I think you said you're going to test that too. It sounds interesting." And then the acting undersecretary said, "We'll get to the right folks who could." And then he followed it up and said, "Right. And then I see the disinfectant, where it can knock it out in 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injecting inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets in the lungs, and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it would be interesting to check that. So you're going to have to use medical doctors with," it's kind of weird how he's talking here, but it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in under a minute, that's pretty powerful.
All right, so before you go, JD, let me say it's the first time I've heard that. That don't sound too bad to me. As far as what he's saying, is he's saying hypothetically, could you clean out the body with a disinfectant? Something like that. Is that medically possible? You guys are going to test that. That doesn't sound all that controversial to me, okay? Somewhere, I think it was New York, they were banning the use of Lysol and other places based on that quote. All right, so... And JD made a couple of Facebook posts on this saying, look, don't freak out. That's not what he said. But at the same time, is that stupid? I don't know. You can kind of...
So, in my opinion, what they was talking about, the guy before him was talking about isopropyl alcohol, which is like Lysol, these cleaning solutions that we use. And I think he asked us a very stupid question. Obviously, you're not going to be able to inject isopropyl alcohol into your body because it will do a number on your lungs, for sure. If you think COVID-19 tears your lungs up, inject some Lysol. Do not inject Lysol to your lungs. So he was just asking this question. Stupid question, in my opinion. But nonetheless, he didn't suggest people do that. I totally agree with that. I think MSNBC, I was pretty disappointed with their headline. Trump suggests injecting disinfectant. Totally not what he did. He did not suggest people do that at all. I totally agree with that. So I defend this cat on Facebook, right, for a whole day. And the next day he's asked about it, asked to clarify. He goes, "Oh no, I was being sarcastic to reporters just to see what would happen." Did you see that part?
Now, but as far as disinfectants being injected, that's something that's already done. If you look at a number of vaccines, for instance, I think like you got, like formaldehyde and some of those is basically what they are. Obviously, you're not going to inject Lysol and whatever in your body, but here's what I thought was interesting is on the ultraviolet thing, on the ultraviolet. There's a statement by the Cedars-Sinai. Said a Cedars-Sinai research team is in the preclinical stages of developing a technology that harnesses intermittent ultraviolet, a light for treating viruses and bacteria. The technology has not been tested or used on patients. Cedars-Sinai has filed for patents related to the technology and has signed a licensing agreement with I2 bioscience with the aim of potentially enabling near-term use as a COVID-19 intervention for critically ill intubated patients.
So, and I'll be straight with you, JD. I didn't like even what Brad read there that Trump said. Like, I was all prepared to say that was a stupid question. I was prepared to say that. Like, okay, well, he asked a dumb question. I didn't even think the question was dumb, based on what Brad read. He was just saying, you're testing that, right? I mean, kind of like a hypothetical. You're testing that, right? That seems like something in those press conferences, like you're sitting around talking. I know I've done that at the water board meetings. You're sitting around talking, you say something that may be kind of off the wall.
He's thinking out loud.
But you're thinking out loud. You're just talking.
Right.
So I didn't think anything. What it made me really think, now that I've heard that, is if you're getting your information from MSNBC, CNN, Fox, NBC, CBS, you're getting your information from the wrong place. Because that is, like you said, the headline was sensationalized.
Right. Clickbait. It's clickbait.
It's clickbait. And that we've talked about that on here 100 times. Right. And by the way, JD's got on a I'm Groot shirt. Love it. Sorry. But I just noticed it. But, like I didn't even think that was that even controversial. He was thinking out loud. Now, the next day, if he came back and said, well, I was just being sarcastic, well, it didn't sound like to me he was even being sarcastic.
So, here's from WebMD. I don't know if you guys want to listen to WebMD or not. But here's what it says about disinfectants. Because we're talking about isopropyl alcohol. It says, to be clear, disinfectants, when properly used, are very beneficial on surfaces like countertops, doorknobs, floors, etc., to help kill the coronavirus. Not on or in your body ever.
Well, no, but I think what that is cleaning supplies. I think that's
what isopropyl alcohol is.
Right, but I think that they can use some disinfectants for your body to like kill. It's almost like an antibiotic or a virus, something that would kill the virus in your body. There may be another term.
Right, I'm not talking about obviously using Lysol or whatever, no, but
that's what the conversation was with the guy that got up. He was coming up on stage after the guy. That's right after the guy got off stage, and he was talking about isopropyl alcohol killing the coronavirus. He said 30 seconds. Trump quoted him at a minute. Whatever. But the context was isopropyl alcohol as the disinfectant they was talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to me, that's why it's stupid, because that's not a disinfectant that is used in any treatment ever. And my point was, the next day when he goes, "Oh, I was just being sarcastic, so I'd see what happened to you reporters. You go crazy with it." Well, if you want some respect from me, here's what he should have done. I said something stupid. Not a big deal. I'm not wasting my time on this. I think that would have been a much better way to handle this situation.
I will say one thing. He has been insanely entertaining the last few weeks going after these reporters.
Yeah, but they're asking just a regular question, and he just jumps all over them. It's crazy.
Well, it seems like, and I mean, to be fair, it seems like it's to get the headline or the clickbait.
Sometimes it is. You're right. And I'm tired of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so tired of that. But I've literally I've gotten so tired of this. Like, I listen to KSR every day in the office. Every day. It comes on. I have a Sonos, and I listen to iHeart.
What do you have?
It's called a Sonos. It's a speaker that you can Bluetooth.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm just drinking.
No.
I don't know.
But no, I listen to iHeartRadio, and I listen to this AM station out of Lexington, so I can listen to KSR 630.
Okay.
And so,
Lexington, yeah.
And so I listen to that. Well, then Rush Limbaugh comes on after that, and then Hannity after that, right? And so I normally would sit and listen to that, just as noise in the background. And it's gotten to the point where I don't even listen to that now. I literally, as soon as KSR goes off, I turn it over to the rock station and listen to music all day. Right. I'm like you. I'm just so sick of that, just all the way around. But I thought it'd be interesting to talk about because that dominated everything. Like, Trump was the biggest idiot on the planet. And I thought your post was good. I thought, look, guys, relax.
Well, what happens is, and it's the same thing the Democrats have done since Trump's been in the presidency, they jump on everything. Want to jump on everything and make everything bigger than what it is. This was a big issue. But here now, I mean, I love the memes, I ain't gonna lie. Because even though he didn't say it, the memes are still funny. From both sides, the Republican guys have come back with some, if you think Trump meant that, then please do it,
Yeah.
But you lose your credibility when things aren't true and you try to jump on them and make them what they aren't. And that's why I would caution people that if you're going to criticize, then criticize fairly. That's all I'm going to say.
And criticize things that are actually important.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's fair to be, critical of our politicians. I think that's fair, Democrat or Republican.
Sure.
I just wonder what, if anything, is going on in the background. Because Trump, whether you love him or hate him, here's one thing that he is very good at, is creating a 3 or 4 day news cycle about something ridiculous to throw shade on something else.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I wondered that same thing. I was like, I wonder if he's playing this game because it really did dominate the news for 3 to 4 days.
But I need to send you guys this video of one of the specialists that was on the stage with him, the lady, I can't remember her name. While he was trying to spew all this stuff out and ask all these questions, I thought it looked like she was going to blow her top. Like, she was like, oh my Lord, what have I got myself into with this guy?
It's funny. All right. So anyway, we thought we'd talk about that because, that's one of those things. We try to talk about current events and things that are going on. And that one was a little ridiculous maybe, but it was still fun to talk about. So the other big thing that happened this week was the NFL draft. And we'll have a brief conversation on this. But, with the COVID-19 thing going on, the NFL draft's one of the biggest, events of the year in our country because the NFL is so popular. Well, because of the social distancing and all that, they had to essentially do it with, cameras and, Zoom and, all these things that have come about. Man, I should have bought some Zoom stock before all this went down, right?
If you've been seeing it, you could have.
Yeah, you could have. That's right. So I thought it was interesting. The draft was awesome. The Kentucky guys, I thought, showed pretty well. You had Lynn Bowden, ended up in Vegas with the Raiders, which I love. And they're going to make him a running back. And I'm not even a Raiders fan, but I just think that suits him. I think that black and silver will suit Lynn and, the nastiness that he played with, running the ball. And they're going to make him a running back, which could be interesting. But he covers like 5 different positions, so you could have him do about anything. And then Logan Stenberg, our big offensive lineman, ended up going to Detroit in the 4th round. I love that because he's a dog. Yeah, poor guy, right? Have to go to Detroit, but he's a dog. He'll do well. Then you had Calvin Taylor, who was a man-child. I mean, he was a defensive pass rusher. Great. Ended up in Pittsburgh. I'm not a Steelers fan, but I love Benny. Benny's there.
And any defensive player man ends up in Pittsburgh. That's the right place to be.
Yeah, that's the right place to be. And then Ahmad Wagner, who was the guy that he played basketball at Iowa and ended up coming to Kentucky and playing football, and he was a walking pass interference call. Every time they threw the ball to him, he drew a pass interference call. Ended up going to Chicago, which is cool. So, 4 guys ended up on teams. Cash didn't end up anywhere that I know of. That was the one. I was hoping he might get picked up somewhere, being a Paintsville boy.
I'm sure he's signed a free agent deal by now.
Yeah.
Though.
So I'm hoping he'll at least get a chance to go and show what he can do. But it was a different watching experience because they kind of had these rules like, we're going to show you on TV in your home. So you got to see all these different people in their houses. One guy's mom had on a Tupac shirt, which was awesome. You got to see these coaches in their environment. Social distancing rules were broken right off the bat when they showed Tua. There were like 16 people in the room. Then one kid got drafted, and there was a yell. I bet there was 100 people in that house off screen. So social distancing. But two things that happened that I thought were the most interesting, really 3. One is Roger Goodell is a total nerd. And the trying to be relaxed at home thing just really doesn't suit him at all. Just be who you are, man.
Right.
If you're listening, Roger, and we know you are, just be who you are, man. Be a stuffy geek. It's fine.
Embrace it, man.
Embrace it, brother. I'm a nerd. I talk about it on here all the time. Embrace it. The one that cracked me up the most, though, was this guy got drafted. They show him sitting in a chair, and I'm assuming this is his girlfriend sitting on his lap. And out of nowhere, the mom picks this girl up, and I'm not talking about said, hey, get up. Picked her up. This is not your moment, sweetheart.
Uh-huh.
That crap, you don't get to see that kind of stuff during a normal NFL draft. Right. Then you had the guy who was sitting by his girlfriend. She took his phone out of his hand. He immediately took it back. You saw that. Then they showed this video of this guy, weighed about 300 pounds, jumping up out of a pool.
No, he weighed 360.
360. Did you see that?
That was crazy.
Dude, I couldn't do that and weigh 180 pounds.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of videos that guy on YouTube doing things he shouldn't be able to do at that size. But I thought it was cool I thought it was a different way to watch it, but it was cool.
Also, another Kentucky kid got drafted in the first round that played at Alabama. The Willis kid, Dredrick Willis.
Yeah, he was from Lexington, played for
Talking
Lafayette,
about a
right?
monster kid. That guy.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
6'7", 3/4, and like, I think he weighed 374 or something like that.
And dude, can you imagine the team at Lafayette?
Did you see his time? He run under 5.240.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. Landon,
would you like to get hit by that guy?
Oh my goodness.
He ain't gonna hit me. I can tell you right now. I'll shoot him.
What'd you run, about 4.2?
No. I run a 4.75. That's the best I ever run it. But have you ever seen this meme, man? This guy, it says, what would you do if this guy smacked your girlfriend on her butt? Big, muscular guy, always work out, you've seen those guys. And it had some little redneck guy answered, I tell him, imagine all those hours in the gym just to get shot by somebody like me.
But no, I thought the draft was cool. I thought it was interesting to see that.
Yeah.
And it was a totally different way.
One of my favorite things about the draft, like I always, because nobody likes Roger Goodell, let's just face it. I mean, nobody does. And he gets, this is the one time of the year he really just hears the boos. And so they started the draft out, and he had some boos lined up on the monitor. And it was all blue. He goes, "Come on, guys, don't louder." And so I thought that was cool for him to embrace that a little bit and have some fun with that. I thought that was cool. But and it's a big deal for these kids, man. Getting drafted, their lives are going to change. One of the things I noticed, and this is just me being weird, I guess. Did you see how nice these homes were most of these people were living in? Like, they're just now getting drafted. They really don't have no money yet, but they all a lot of them come from very well-to-do families anyway. And it makes me wonder, or it definitely really reinforces that, the opportunity some of these kids get because of who they happen to be born to. Get to go to camps. You can afford to go to camps. You can afford to go across the country and, work out with so-and-so, That makes a big difference, I think.
Or maybe they got their first big contract when they went to college.
Yep.
That's never happened for UK.
Yeah. But no, it was cool, and I thought it was a different way to watch the draft. It was interesting. It'll be interesting to see when things do kind of go back to normal, if they take any of the things that they did with the draft this year and kind of incorporate those into next year's draft. Because one thing, though, I do have the question. Wouldn't it have been the most Bengal thing ever if there had been technical difficulties before the first pick and they couldn't have picked Burrow, like their time ran out or something? Wouldn't that be the most Bengals thing ever? Yes. But that didn't happen. I think they had dialed that pick in long before they told him on Wednesday and started announcing it.
I would like to see a list of every quarterback that the Bengals have taken in my lifetime to still suck every year except for one.
Right. I'm hoping, I said, because Burrow is a real good, he's a talent.
Yeah.
For sure. And LSU was really, really good. And he led that, come from Ohio State and led them to the national championship. He's the man. I'll be interested to see if he can do anything with the Bengals.
I hope so.
I do too.
I've been rooting for the Bengals since I was a little kid.
Why, man? Why y'all root for the Bengals?
And aside from that, what was it, 1989? 88, 89
talking about the Icky Shuffle, baby?
Yeah, the Icky Shuffle. And I thought, I was a little kid. I'm just getting real big in football, and I think, well, this is what it's arrived. Like. I've got the right team.
Yeah.
And I don't have they had a winning season since then.
I don't know, man. I think we went to the playoffs one year and got beaten the first round. I don't know. It's never good.
It's not been good.
That was Icky Woods and James Brooks and Boomer Esiason.
But on a positive note, it's almost the end of April and the Reds haven't lost a game.
That's right.
True.
Hey, look, now I'm kind of excited for the Reds to get going because I think they're going to be pretty good this year. Like, I'm pretty excited about the Reds season starting. And I hope some sports get fired up here pretty soon.
Yeah, what are we waiting for? Is there any reason that we can't be 60 feet 6 inches away from each other or 90 feet away from each other on the bases? Right. Let's get going.
Let's play some sports. Let's do something.
I think they could make it work where there was even no fans there, man. Still make a ton of money through television contracts.
Yes,
there's got to be a way.
Yes.
It's got to get a little creative. I think if you can do it.
All right, boys. We're running a little bit long here, so we're going to go ahead and get to our last segment. And we've had a pretty good time doing these movie brackets. But JD has come up with a really good one this week.
Probably the most manliest one.
Absolutely.
We've done mafia movies.
Sports.
We've done sports and baseball movies. But now this is this is pretty macho.
So, JD, introduce our movie bracket.
I ain't trying to flex on y'all now, show my masculine side, but we're about to do the Disney movies, cartoons. All of them are.
Are we doing Disney princesses strictly, or are we going?
No. It's just there's Dumbo in here, and
okay, so we're going Disney,
the
catalog,
but no Pixar movies. Okay, and they had to be cartoons. No live movies.
Okay, I like it.
All right, so our top 4 seeds are Lion King, Aladdin, Snow White, and Beauty and the Beast.
That's strong.
All right, so this bracket, man, it's filled with killers. I'm just going to tell you now.
That's strong.
And this was a tough one for me, but we'll go with Lion King and the Sword and the Stone. Because
I'm going Lion King pretty strongly. Sword and the Stone's all right. But I really like Lion King. You know, Simba. You know, you got Mufasa.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you can't really go wrong with Lion King. So I'm going Lion King all the way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was out over here getting ready to start singing The Circle of Life.
Yeah, so we'll make it easy on you. Phil Collins, bring it home.
Listen now. Was it Phil Collins? Elton John, wasn't it?
I thought it was Phil Collins that did
Phil Collins was the other. I can't even think of what that song was called.
I don't know.
Anyway.
But the Sword of Stone, man, I got to give props to it, though. It's awesome. Merlin and all that stuff, man. When he's fighting the witch, he turns into a germ. You guys remember that? I thought that was awesome. Childhood memory for me. I loved it. But we'll go with Lion King. And that was my vote as well. Okay, some new school. Mulan and Moana. Moana.
I'm going with the classic. I'm going to go with Mulan. You know, it's a tale of I have daughters. It's a tale of a young woman defending her family and going off to war and taking on all the, you know, the men in the country and becoming a warrior. So I'm definitely going Mulan.
Guys, I've got a confession to make here. I've not seen either one of these movies. But Moana just seems like a cooler name. So I'm going with that one.
I'm going with Moana. Just because of the ocean thing, I think it's cool.
That's cool. It's a good movie. And the Rock.
Yeah,
the Rock's in that one. That's good. But I'm totally a Mulan kind of fella. I'm actually excited about that live action.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's right. Beauty and the Beast, Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, you know, I mean, really, that's a pretty tough one. But I think Beauty and the Beast, for me, that's one I've seen many times. Alice in Wonderland is a little weird, you know, when you're in college and you're, you know, maybe smoking a left-hand cigarette. Alice in Wonderland can be fun to watch. But I'm going to go with Beauty and the Beast. Why don't you go second, JD? That way, depending on what you vote for.
Well, I'm going Beauty and the Beast too, man. I just think it's cool. The little teacups, and I mean, the guy turns into an animal, man. How could you not like that? I like fantasy stuff more. Well, I like Alice in Wonderland's not, but I don't know. I like the Gaston and all that stuff. Man. I think it's cool. Like, so I'm going Beauty and the Beast. What was you going to vote for, Brad?
Yeah, just because it reminds me of my marriage, I'm going with Beauty and the Beast.
Tiff, he called you a beast.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Oh, it's a tough one here. Pocahontas and Cinderella.
You know, that is a tough one because when, you know, the family and I go to Disney, I haven't been in a couple of years, but we used to go pretty regular when the girls were small, you know, and they have the meet and greets with the characters where you get your picture taken. I always went to see Pocahontas. I ain't going to lie to you. Pocahontas is fine.
Yeah.
And when we went to
if a cartoon can be fine,
yeah,
she is.
She's fine. She's up there with Jessica Rabbit for me with cartoon ladies. Now, Cinderella's a classic.
Right.
I mean, that is the classic. You know, Pocahontas is a good story, though, man. That's a tough one for me. I'm going to go Pocahontas, just, you know, strictly because I'm a child.
I'm going Cinderella. I'm going with the classic. I like it, Cinderella. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, on the hot value, I'm definitely going with Pocahontas. But just pure classic, I got to go with Cinderella.
That's fair. I couldn't go against my girl.
Right. So Aladdin and Dumbo.
You know, that's a tough one, too, because Dumbo is one of those classic Disney movies as well. And if you've ever been to Disney World and you go over there and you ride the ride, you know, the Dumbo ride with the big ears, it's pretty awesome. And then, you know, Dumbo's kind of the one that people made fun of him. He had the big ears.
It's a foundation story of Disney, too, man.
It really is.
You know.
I'm going to go with Dumbo. I like Dumbo.
I'm going with Aladdin because you said that Pocahontas is hot, but for me, Jasmine's where it's at.
Jasmine ain't wrong.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. And then you got Robin Williams. It's one of his biggest roles of all
That
time.
was awesome, man. Yeah. And they had good music too, man. The Arabian Nights songs and all that stuff. This was pretty cool. And Jafar. I mean, it had everything.
He's awesome. A classic villain too, Jafar is.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the Disney store to come out with one of Joe Exotic's tigers. But I'm going with Aladdin.
Aladdin moves on. Lady and the Tramp and Bambi.
Brad, you go first on this one.
Going Bambi.
God, they shoot the deer. They shoot the mom, man. And that's one that we were talking off air before we came on. One movie we didn't put on here. It's Fox and the Hound.
Yeah.
And that's one of those movies that I remember being in the movie theater and crying my eyes out.
Dude, if we watch Fox and the Hound right now, I'll cry. 100%.
Bambi's another one. They shoot the mom. I mean, that's pretty rough, right? You're a kid and Disney, they shoot the deer. I don't know.
But Lady and the Tramp's a classic tale,
Lady and the Tramp's a classic tale, too. And there is a live version of that right now on Disney+. I haven't watched it yet, but I will. I'll wait till the kids are gone, and then I'll check that one out. Yeah, that way I can watch that myself. I'm going to go with Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, man, you put it on me.
It all comes down to JD.
I'm going to Bambi. I'm just going to go Bambi. I don't know why. I just like it better, I guess. It's hard to pick between those two. Snow White and Sleeping Beauty.
See, those are two classics. You got Titans going up against each other right there. Sleeping Beauty is another one because you got Maleficent comes out of Sleeping Beauty. You got Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh.
For me, just sitting down and watching the two movies, I can't believe I'm breaking this down. I can't believe I'm breaking down Snow White and Sleeping Beauty right now.
This is what your life is now, Jimmy.
This is who I am. I would go Snow White. The classic tale, the apple, the evil queen, and then the Seven Dwarfs. I think the Seven Dwarfs really push it over for me.
Yeah, I think so too. I would go Snow White. What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I'm going Snow White.
Snow White in the sweep. Pinocchio and the Little Mermaid.
Look, this ain't even a question for me.
The
classic Matthew McConaughey line from Dazed and Confused. I love those redheads.
Yeah.
When I seek out at Disney, when I'm seeking, out these character greets.
She's always on the top of the list.
Ariel's right there, baby. There is my one of my profile pics, I think it's on my PayPal account, is a picture of me with Ariel. That's all you got to know.
Right.
And this is just a little sidebar story. I was at church camp. It's probably 7th, 8th grade. It's a really, really cute girl. And I was trying to mac on, and we watched Little Mermaid. Kiss the Girl comes on. I got me a little smooch. That holds a deep place in my heart. I ain't gonna lie to you, baby.
See, I'm disappointed because I thought you were going to say you were at church camp and you actually saw a real mermaid.
I did, but I may have been chemically compromised at that point.
No, but they did feed the whole group with a loaf of bread and a couple of fish. I don't know how that happened, but they did. Bible joke, sorry.
Man. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud because I really did enjoy Pinocchio, but I've got to go with Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid gets the sweep.
Look, Little Mermaid, from a musical standpoint, is one of the best Disney movies ever made.
Yeah.
I mean, look, recognize what I'm telling you right now. Brad, I'm looking at you. I expect you to vote with me, brother-in-law.
So, Lion King and Moana.
I'll go first on this one. Lion King.
Yeah, it's got to be Lion King. And Moana's actually really good. After JD mentioned it, it is actually a really good movie, and The Rock's pretty good in that too.
Yeah.
But definitely Lion King.
Yeah, I'm going Lion King the sweep. So, Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella.
Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella. Now, and again, that kind of comes back to what if both those shows were on and I was going to watch one. Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorites. Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, with the sweep. Aladdin and Bambi. I'll go first. I'll say Aladdin. I just think if like you said, Jimmy, if those both on, I'm watching Aladdin all day.
Aladdin.
Yeah, Aladdin for me too.
This is going to be the tough one, I think, of this round. Snow White and Little Mermaid.
I love those redheads, baby. Little Mermaid for me.
I'm going with Snow White, leaving you with a tiebreaker.
Man, that's tough. I'm going Flounder and Little Mermaid, man. Flounder's my dude.
Founder's man, Sebastian, little crab guy. You gotta love it.
All right, so that gives us the semifinals. Your final four is Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Little Mermaid.
I mean, that's pretty strong right there. That's that's pretty tough.
So Lion King and Beauty and the Beast.
For me, just because Beauty and the Beast for me. I really like Beauty and the Beast.
I just want to say that my respect level for Jimmy just went down. I thought you was really going to go Lion King.
No, I'm sitting over here distracted because I'm thinking this is exactly where these guys are in their life. Jimmy Don's over there concerned about the redhead, and JD's over here concerned about the crabs.
Yeah.
Well played, Brad. That was good.
I ain't even mad about it.
I ain't even mad. Yeah, that's so true. No, I would go because, you got silverware that dance and sing.
I'm saying Lion King.
I'm Lion King.
That's fair. That's totally fair. It is a great one.
Either way, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, you can't.
So Aladdin and Little Mermaid.
I'll let you all go first because you know where my vote's
I'm Aladdin, man, all the way. Right here with the genie, the carpet.
Aladdin.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. How Little Mermaid does not get in the finals is ridiculous.
Did he just now say he didn't care?
Ridiculous. I know. I tried to bribe Brad here just a second ago to go with Little Mermaid through the finals. That's ridiculous, Brad Broadus. You're dead to me. So,
Lion King and Aladdin.
Lion King.
If they were on right now, which one would you want to watch?
Lion King.
I'm not giving him the clean sweep. I like Aladdin better, probably.
Do you really?
I really like Aladdin. I like the fantasy, like I said, man, the fantasy stuff. Jafar with the wizardry and the genie and stuff. I think it's cool.
So while we're, not that this get any more ridiculous,
but Lion King is your winner.
That's solid. You can go with Lion King, but okay, for example, the Disney movie Fantasia.
Yeah.
Right. That is when you go to Disney World, there's a whole little thing you go to and watch, and it is awesome. It's one of the best things at Disney World. Yeah. And it's called Fantasmic, is what it's called. But I've never watched Fantasia.
I think it's ain't it really long? I've watched a good 30 minutes of it, but I've always got pulled away or whatever.
Have you ever watched it, Brad?
No.
Yeah, I've never watched it, and it's one of the classic.
I think
Disney
that's where
movies.
Mickey Mouse.
Yeah,
that was the first time he was Mickey Mouse. I think. Right?
Is that what it is? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
it's interesting.
He morphed from something else, but that's where he was really in his final build. That's it, man. We're done. Lion King's the winner.
Cool, Lion King. It's ridiculous.
Beat the
Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid.
Didn't even make it to the finals.
Look, we're going to have to work on our hand signals, Brad. I thought we were tighter than that. Little Mermaid.
Brad's not selling out to you, Jimmy Don.
He's not. All right, that's fair enough. All right, boys, anything else we want to talk about?
I think we're good.
I had something that I wanted to read at the end, and I left my phone in the car. So I'm going to try to close the show with this, and it was a post that I read on Facebook this week that I don't know why, but it kind of hit home to me, especially with all this COVID stuff going on. And it was basically saying, look, nobody's worried about money. People are washing their hands, being sanitary. They're cooking dinner at home with their families. Let's look at the bright side of all this. And it kind of hit home with me as far as our lives are so busy and so hectic. And then you listen to what we just talked about, on this show today, some of the crazy stuff that's going on out there, and it's all really pretty trivial when it all comes right down to it. And it's fun for us to get on here and discuss, but when it comes to our everyday lives, doing this, talking to each other, exchanging ideas, really, I haven't thought about money necessarily. I've enjoyed hanging out with my kids and doing that and hanging out with you guys with my quarantine group, as I call it. So I wanted to end the show with that. Just let's look at the bright side of what's going on out here. Well, we may question it, and there are things going on. The people that are in charge are trying to make tough decisions, just like what we talked about with the abortion bill and the teachers' pension. These guys got some tough decisions ahead of them, and especially when it comes to a pandemic. So, I get tired of hearing this. I'm almost sick of hearing this. We're in this together, but there is some truth to that. And so we appreciate you guys listening to us and hanging out with us for a little while. Take your mind off things that are going on. As always, you can check us out on the Podbean app. Download that, subscribe. Go to iTunes, subscribe there. Spotify. You can check out the YouTube page. You can check out Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And I guess I'll end the show on a little lighter note here because it just came to my mind. Eric Beaudry, that does our Instagram page, put out a video the other day of him reenacting a movie. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
You've got to check that out.
If you're listening, look up Eric Beaudry, Baudry. He's got a cool Instagram story that he does where, he hikes a lot and it's cool. And he does a whole lot for us. And
he does everything for us.
Yes. But that is one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. So you definitely need to go check that out. So I wanted to give him a definite shout out about that because that really brightened my day the other day when I saw it. And he's done several, so it's funny. Check him out. But as we always end the show, from myself, from JD, and from Brad, no matter how bad your week's been, or no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better. Stay safe, everybody.